Paolo Banchero is one of the best players under 25 in the NBA today, and is coming off a career year in which he averaged 25.9 points per game and was the NBA's 11th leading scorer. At just 22 years old, Paolo has demonstrated his elite scoring skills. Still, despite his impressive raw points per game number, the one thing that seems to follow Banchero is his inefficiency from the field and poor true shooting percentage. The Magic were one of the worst offensive and shooting teams last season, ranking 27th in offensive rating throughout the game and 30th in three-point makes and three-point percentage. Being such a putrid shooting team and overall offense doesn't create much space for Paolo to operate, forcing him into taking a ton of jump shots. Over 60% of Paolo's field goal attempts from last season were jump shots, with him making 42.5% inside the arc and 32% from behind it. The mid-range has always been a significant part of Paolo's shot diet, which has contributed to his inefficiency in the NBA. However, is this mid-range reliance due to the Magic's poor shooting and spacing, or Paolo's own limitations as an offensive player? One thing that stands out when watching all of Paolo's field goal attempts from last season is just how okay teams are with sagging off of him and going under on screens. Look at this possession where Paolo has Zubac on him during a mismatch. Zu is all the way back at the free throw line, just inviting Paolo to step in and take a pull-up three, which he obliges and misses badly. Here, Paolo runs a pick and roll with Wendell Carter Jr., with Wendell doing a good job of forcing a switch, but just look how far back in drop Vooch is. He's nearly at the free throw line, but Paolo just can't punish that drop. Later in the same game, he gets Vooch on a switch. This should be just an easy drive. There's no back line or shot blocker waiting, and there's space behind him to attack. But because Vooch can just sag 5 to 6 feet off Paolo, it takes away any easy way for him to attack, and once again, he takes a bad step back three. On this possession, the Magic set 2 screens for Paolo, with Murray going well under on the second screen. And just look how far back Jokic is on this play, yet Paolo just can't capitalize on the open 3 and lets the Nuggets get away with bad defense. It's hard to be a lead ball handler and just run as many ISO and pick and roll plays as Paolo does when you just lack a pull-up 3 altogether. And for this season, Paolo shot just 30.7% on 3.9 pull-up 3s a night. Of players who took 2 or more pull-up 3s per game, Paolo ranked 50th out of 59 in three-point percentage. When you shoot like that off the dribble, teams will and do sag off of you, which cuts down on driving lanes and is only further exacerbated by the Magic's dreadful spacing. Paolo himself contributes significantly to the Magic's poor spacing, not just being a bad pull-up shooter, but also a below average catch and shoot player, knocking down only 34% of his catch and shoot threes. When your lead guy just can't space the defense, it makes it harder for everyone, including himself. Now you can get away without a pull-up 3 as a lead ball handler, and with guys going under screens by having just an elite first step. Paolo just doesn't have that top end quick twitch first step to make up for that. Unless he can add a legit pull-up 3, teams will always live with going under on pick and roll actions, and bigs will keep sagging off of him on switches. Watching Paolo operate inside of the arc, one thing that stands out is that he doesn't always do a great job of reading the defense behind his man unless he's set up at the top of the key. When he's isoed on the wing or working on a mismatch following a pick and roll, Paolo does seem to just lose where the rest of the defense is, and he gets into some pretty tough spots. Take a look at this play. Paolo is looking to iso the smaller defender Nesmith, and as he drives, the Pacers shade their entire defense over to him. KCP and Wendell both see this and both cut baseline to drag Halliburton and Turner away from the play. But instead of turning back the other way and attacking that open space, Paolo spins right into Turner, leading to a tough look that he misses. As much as this is bad spacing from the rest of the Magic, it's also bad offensive execution from Paolo. On this possession, the Magic force a favorable switch, getting White onto Paolo, who then has an entire side of the court to operate in. Yet instead of trying to post up and use his size or drive baseline where the help can't come, he drives right into the middle of the court where KP is lurking. Yes, Isaac should be spaced out more, but even if you were an elite shooter, KP still would be waiting there, as the Celtics are going to take away rim attempts for bad threes. So why drive into a 7-foot shot blocker when you have space to attack? attack. While the spacing on both of these plays isn't amazing, it's not like he's operating in a phone booth, and he does have space on the court to attack. He just doesn't always read it or see it in the moment, which leads to both plays getting altered at the rim. And look, both of these plays from the same games respectively. During this possession, he has Brown on him in the same spot. This time, Paolo is more patient and backs him down using his size along the baseline before turning around for a jumper. While it does end in a miss, the process is better, and that mid-range jumper is his go-to. Take this play from the same game against the Pacers. Once again, Paolo has a smaller defender on him in Nembhard, so instead of rushing it like he did earlier against Nesmith, he takes his time, then drives to his spot and pulls up for the easy midi. I don't think the spacing is significantly different, yet the way Paolo attacks is, and it results in a bucket or a good shot both times. Being able to read the court while attacking is vital to being an elite scorer, and while Paolo I think is on his way to that, he does need to improve on constantly reading the court when he's not posted up or operating from the top of the key. There's always open space to attack, you just need to be able to find it and get to it, which I think is something that he does struggle with. And some of the times that's because the Magic spacing is bad, and other times it's because he can't create the separation to get downhill. Now, let's answer that question. Is Paolo Banchero inefficient, or is the Magic spacing suffocating him? Well, I watched nearly all 911 field goal attempts taken by Banchero last season, and I hand-tracked them to see if he was doubled, not doubled, had the defense shade over to him, or was soft double. Now, of course, this isn't the perfect way to see how often Banchero faced what type of defensive coverage, as he is a good passer and knows when to pass out of a double, but outside of watching every single one of his offensive possessions, it is a good way to see how often he faced what type of defensive coverage. To me, this is what I consider a double team, and here are a couple examples of Paolo getting doubled while driving or working on a mismatch. This is what I would call shading or a soft double, facing some type of stunt or help from the wings, or having the big or another defender shade over near the rim. When you're a top player in the NBA, this is how you're going to get guarded no matter how good your team's spacing is. SGA, Tatum, those guys still get doubled a good amount despite having the best shooting in the league on their respective teams. I do think because of the Magic's poor spacing though, it is easier to shrink the floor on Paolo and just throw more help at him. Now here's a breakdown by my tracking on how often he faced extra defenders on different plays. Paolo attempted 102 transition field goals, and he faced double teams on 24.5 of those and soft doubles or shading on 16.6%. Paolo took 159 field goals on his drive attempts, and he faced double teams 47% of the time and soft double / shading another 22%. Of Paolo's 71 post-up field goal attempts, he faced double teams 29.5% and soft doubles / shading 36.6%. But outside of drives, transitions, and post-ups, Paolo is facing single coverage a ton. For my tracking, Paolo had 237 ISO mismatch field goal attempts. During those attempts, Paolo's faced double teams 10.9% of the times and soft double / shading 12.2%. Paolo had 130 field goal attempts as a pick and roll ball handler, and during those attempts, Paolo faced double teams 8.6% of the time and soft double / shading an additional 8.6% of the time. Paolo had 26 field goal attempts as a pick and roll / pop man, and during those attempts, Paolo's faced double teams 11.5% of the times and soft double / shading an additional 23%. While he does face double / shading on a decent amount of his field goal attempts, a ton are still against single coverage, and he just isn't converting at a high clip. And I think that comes down to a few things that we've already kind of talked about. Yes, with better spacing, he would face fewer doubles or helps on his drives and have an easier time working his way to the rim in ISO or off the pick and roll. But I also think if he was a threat as a pull-up shooter and was able to make a team guard him behind the three-point line, he would be significantly more efficient, because instead of just taking a bunch of bad threes due to him not being able to punish a slower footed player because they're sagging off of him so much, they would have to then step out on him where he can use that slight speed advantage more effectively. I also do think he needs to improve at reading the floor and not just spinning into the help defense or not attacking the open space on the court. Lastly, his lack of an elite quick twitch burst does really hurt him and is only more obvious due to the lack of his pull-up three. Paolo is still one of the most exciting young players in the league and is coming off just another great postseason. With the Magic adding an elite shooter in Bane, the court is going to open up in a way it hasn't before for him. But it's not just the Magic who need to improve as a spacing team, Paolo needs to improve as a shooter. So to finally answer that question, is Paolo Banchero inefficient or is the Magic spacing suffocating him? I would say this: the Magic have definitely put some stones in Paolo's pocket, but Banchero isn't helping himself by swimming up the current. Thank you for watching. I hope you had a great day, and if you liked this video, maybe subscribe if you don't mind.